In January of 2011, there was an incident in, I think it was Lahore, Pakistan, when an American by the name of Raymond Davis was being pursued by Pakistani counterintelligence. And he ended up shooting and killing these two Pakistani counterintelligence workers. He ended up being arrested in Pakistan and held for their murder. The Raymond Davis Incident is something that has had some lasting effects on not just Pakistani-American relations, but also was the moment. If there's anything, when you hear about the red pill moment, you take the red pill and you end up getting exposed to reality of what's actually going on. For me, was the biggest red pill moment probably of my life. For here's this American who, well, let's kind of go back to it. I remember it was January of 2011. My wife at the time was getting quite pregnant with our first son, and he, at that time, this was going on, and the United States was claiming that this was there's these killings, these things happened, but Raymond Davis was a part of the American consulate and therefore was entitled to diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity is one of the things I look at as perhaps the greatest of tools out there for diplomacy. That we're going to find diplomats, you can say they're doing okay. There's just some things that we see the diplomats end up doing. They can spy, but one way or another, you grant quarter to enemy at times. And for diplomatic immunity, that is kind of giving quarter to, at times, what can be an enemy force. Despite what goes on, despite what happens, you can kick the person out, you can eject them, but we are not going to completely destroy a diplomatic relationship upon the basis of what one person does. I'm going to send that person back and hope that that nation takes care of that problem. Well, what happened with that was that the Obama administration at the time claimed that Raymond Davis was a diplomat and was entitled to immunity on that basis. The United States press, primarily among them, the New York Times, the Washington Post, forwarded the Obama administration's narrative that Raymond Davis was a diplomat. Eventually, 2 weeks, something like that, maybe 3 weeks later, Raymond Davis, maybe it wasn't until April, Raymond Davis was released by Pakistani officials to the United States government. The United States government paid, I think it was $2.5 million to the families of the two slain Pakistani counterintelligence agents. This is something that is done under Sharia. And don't say Sharia law. Sharia means law. You don't call Sharia law, it's like saying law. Don't do that. It's Sharia. And under Sharia, there is what is, in a sense, almost a blood money pact that says you will compensate the person that you wrongfully killed and compensate their families for it. And the United States did that for, I think it was 2.5 million units of Pakistani currency. Subsequent to this, The Guardian, I think it was UK, reported that these American newspapers, these American reporters, these journalists knew that Raymond Davis was a CIA spook. And on the basis of simply what Obama asked them to do, oh, well, I was wondering whether or not you guys could lie for us. They lied. The media has often spoken of speaking truth to power. WAPO's, the Washington Post's own motto is democracy dies in darkness. New York Times, Washington Post, these papers outright lied. Why? Because Obama he was so dreamy. Oh, he's such a good guy. He asked them to lie for them, and they said the lies. When this happened, the New York Times, I'll see if I can find it and link it in this. The New York, what's the point of linking it? New York Times probably paywalled it anyway. The New York Times ran an op-ed saying that they knew Raymond Davis was a spy. He was a spook. They knew he wasn't a diplomat. But the Obama administration asked them to delay reporting that until after Raymond Davis was released. And what they did at that point was they took that request and they said, anything for you, Mr. President. They lied. And they put that lie out there, and in this op-ed, they had this mea culpa that said, we knew about this, and here's what happened, but here are the factors. Oh, here's an American. He could end up facing execution by the Pakistanis in the event that they find out he's a spook. Well, wait a second here. This guy just killed 2 Pakistani counterintelligence people. If the Pakistanis know that he's a CIA spook, and trust me, the Pakistanis knew he was a CIA spook. If they knew that, well, he might die, and there are more important things out there. The New York Times outright said that the Obama administration asked them to lie. And they said they agreed to lie. And the underlying current was they'd do it again. They would do it again. They justified it. They said, here are their considerations with this thing. This is important. And we lied for the Obama administration. And God damn it, we are proud that we lied because we did something for America. No, they didn't. At that point in time is when I decided I'm not reading newspapers anymore. I'm not watching news anymore. It was Christopher Hitchens, the great Christopher Hitchens, who said that he became a journalist because he wanted to know what was actually going on in the world. Christopher Hitchens understood the game. He knew what this was. Christopher Hitchens is somebody who, was a well-known journalist, but ended up becoming, as far as mainstream journalism goes, a bit of a pariah. Why? Because he spoke the truth about what was going on with Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And he personally had a problem. Oh, God, what was the name of it? He was one of his best friends who was a Clinton guy. And Hitch told the truth about what was going on. with the smear campaign against Monica Lewinsky. Hitchens paid the price. When I do the description, I'll look it up. I can't remember what his name is. It was one of Hitchens' best friends, who was also a very close Clinton confidant and strategist. The problem was not just with the loss of trust in the legacy, now let's just call it the legacy media, the corporate media. It wasn't just a loss of trust in that, but the Pakistani people also had real problems with the United States after that. Pakistan had a pretty long history of being fairly well allied with the United States, particularly during the Cold War. The Cold War, Pakistan took the side of the United States with that. But what's going on with Pakistan now? Pakistan is where Osama bin Laden was living. And during the raid in which Osama bin Laden was killed, we'll just call it killed, assassinated, the United States military, this Navy SEAL team, went into a military force, crossed the border of a sovereign territory, went into that territory, and raided and killed, I'm not going to quite say assassinated or executed, I'm not going to say it outright, Osama bin Laden. That's an act of war. This happened, it wasn't that long in between that and the Raymond Davis incident. Pakistani people really objected quite a bit to how lightly Raymond Davis got treated. Right now, and the reverberations of that lack of relationship, that poor relationship between Pakistan and America, much of which resulted from that. We see it right now. Pakistan basically at war with India. There's been a ceasefire and at least a temporary truce. I think the Pakistanis and the Indians, both of which are nuclear powers, by the way, and with a very long history of ancestral hatreds, I think they understand that Trump is a bit of a different cat. He's not Obama. He's not Biden. He's not W. He's not those guys. And you see Pakistan itself, I can understand that the Pakistani government probably had nothing to do with those people who came across the border and murdered those Indian citizens a couple weeks ago. But one way or another, what the Raymond Davis incident did, not just to America's diplomatic position in that portion of Asia, India and Pakistan, what it did for the trust that the Pakistanis have for the American government is still felt today. And what the response by the legacy media, where, again, let's just go ahead and put it outright, you had the big corporate legacy media that was nothing but a propaganda mouthpiece putting forth disinformation for President Obama, aka Droney McPeace Prize. They lied. Would they have done that for Bush? No. They were doing their jobs during Bush. Would they do that for Trump? Oh, fuck no. Would they do it for Biden? Hey, they covered for him and his intellectual incapacitation for quite a long period of time. We understand what this is. This is not, these are no longer the days of Walter Cronkite being the most trusted man in America. This isn't, despite the editorial or political slants of, say, Peter Jennings, whom I grew up with, or Tom Brokaw. We always kind of knew where they stood, but we do, they'd be fair. That's not the case anymore. Hasn't been the case for at least 15 years. I say at least 15 years because it was only 14 years ago that it became undeniable. Now that media is losing again and again. We have independent media now. We have independent journalists. We have independent content creators on Rumble, on YouTube, on Spotify, who are putting this forth. We have Substack. We have Twitter, where we find these investigative journalists who are independent and actually have some goddamn journalistic integrity, who are speaking truth to power. That means they're speaking the truth against Trump, which is necessary. The legacy media, Jesus Christ, half the time they can't even fucking tell the truth about it. Oh, we're speaking truth against Trump. Well, they'll put forth some story that looks to be incredibly embarrassing against Trump, and a few days later issue a retraction located somewhere in the back of it after the lie has already gone around. See Trump Russia, which never happened. That was a hoax. The media has lost itself. It's lost people like me. And that's where somebody like me, and there are plenty of you other ones out there, who can put ourselves in the same position as the people of Pakistan. Yeah, there's some problems here. Hopefully the current guy in there is so goddamn different that the Pakistanis, the Indians, pretty much anybody can look at him and say, wait a second, the same people who are screwing us over are trying to do the same thing to him. Prove me wrong.